This is the story of a quiet Indian village, a place that believed peace was eternal until one monsoon evening when the still waters of its pond began to whisper the truth of buried sins. Just 40 kilometers from Jaunpur, Uttar Pradesh, lies a small settlement called Chandipur. For generations, it was known for its honesty, its simple living, and the fragrance of red earth after rain. People here worked their fields, raised fish in ponds, and gathered at the chapel each evening to share stories of the past. No greed, no desage, only the slow rhythm of rural life, as if time itself had paused to rest beneath a banyan tree. But that illusion of peace shattered one stormy evening. The sky turned charcoal. Thunder rolled across the paddy fields. The familiar scent of wet soil carried something strange, an uneasiness that people could not name. Doors were shut early. Children peeped through window cracks and whispered, "Amma, why does the weather feel so heavy today?" At the center of the village lay a vast pond, Balmukund Yadav's pond. From a distance, it looked ordinary fish leaping in silver arcs, nets drying on bamboo poles, laborers mixing feed on the bank. But lately, villagers had begun to notice something unusual. The women murmured during evening gatherings, "Have you seen Balmukund's fish? They grow twice as fast as ours. What takes us months, he achieves in weeks." At first, everyone called it luck or good feed. Then, people from Chandipur began disappearing, and the same pond suddenly seemed darker than ever. The first to sense danger was Meena Devi. Her husband Ramesh had vanished 2 months earlier. She searched everywhere. The fields, the bus stand, even filed a police complaint. Nothing. Each evening, she stood by the pond, staring into its still water, as if her husband's reflection might surface someday. Neighbors tried to console her. "Sister, don't think too much. Maybe he went to the city for work." But her heart refused that comfort. Days passed. The monsoon deepened. Then, one dawn, a strange stench rose from the pond. At first, people thought it was rain-soaked decay. But this smell was different. The smell of rot, mixed with the metallic tang of blood. Children stopped going near the water. Elders at the chapel whispered, "There's something unholy in that pond." According to villagers, the odor lingered for days. Livestock avoided the water, and even birds stopped perching on its edge. Fear began to ripple through Chandipur. Then one evening, a young man named Rafi Pratap, who once worked for Balmukund Yadav, burst into the chapel shouting, "I can't stay silent anymore. I've seen it myself. Whatever they throw into that pond, it isn't meant for fish to eat." The crowd froze. Ravi's face had drained of color. His voice trembled. His words struck the village like thunder. The next morning, a complaint reached the police station, and by afternoon, Inspector Arvind Chauhan, known for his calm yet unyielding manner, arrived with his team. Hundreds gathered around the pond. Their eyes were fixed on the dark water, as though it had become a mirror reflecting their fear. Inspector Arvind signaled his men, "Cast the net." The hook splashed into the pond. Minutes passed. No one spoke. Even the rain held its breath. The villagers' eyes widened. They had feared this moment. Yet none were prepared for what the net would reveal. When it finally broke the surface, a wave of silence swept through the crowd. Inside the net were not just fish. There were bones, small, broken fragments, torn strips of cloth, and dark red stains spreading through the water like veins of blood. Time stopped. Women screamed. Children clung to their mothers. Men stared in horror, their faces caught between anger and disbelief. Meena Devi stood frozen, eyes wide, lips trembling. She knew her fear had not been madness. Her Ramesh was somewhere in that cursed pond, Inspector Arvind Chand's deep voice cut through the cries. "This is no ordinary pond," he said. "Someone has been hiding human bodies here." His words echoed through Chandipur like a verdict. That night, whispers filled every house. "Have we been eating the very fish that fed on human flesh?" Lanterns burned late. Prayers were whispered. Yet everyone knew beneath the silence of the pond, justice had just begun to stir. The rain had stopped that night. But in Chandipur, fear continued to put. The pond that once symbolized life had now become a mirror of death. As villagers huddled inside their homes, thunder faded, leaving only whispers of guilt, suspicion, and unanswered questions. Inspector Arvind Chauhan had set up a temporary police camp beside the chapel. Lanterns flickered under the dripping roof. Children clung to their mothers. Men stared into the dark, faces tight with anger and disbelief. Someone murmured, "This isn't our karma's punishment. It's the shadow of someone's evil." Heads bowed in uneasy silence. Arvind called the village elder, Pandit Harinarayan Mishra, and a few young men to gather near the lamp. "The road to truth is never easy," he said. "Steady and low, but truth always wins. If anyone has seen or heard anything, speak now. Silence will only protect the guilty." A pause, long and heavy. Then Ravi Pratap stepped forward, guilt in his eyes, but resolve in his voice. "Sir, I used to work for Balmukund Yadav at that pond. Every night, he watched the nets himself. Sometimes bullock carts brought heavy sacks, sealed tight. He ordered us to dump them at the far corner. Once I asked what was inside. He glared so hard my blood froze. He said, 'Don't use your brain too much, Ravi, or I'll cut your tongue.' From that night, I couldn't sleep. The chopal fell silent. Meena Devi's cracked lips trembled as she whispered, 'Ravi, if you had spoken earlier, maybe my Ramesh would still be alive.' Ravi bowed his head. 'It's my fault, Didi. But now, I'll tell everything, even if it costs my life.' Arvind placed a hand on his shoulder. 'This is courage. My son, your truth will give strength to many. From tonight, no one guards that pond alone. We'll keep watch from all sides. Remember, fear lives where silence grows.' That night, no one in Chandipur slept. A conch shell echoed from somewhere. A diya glowed before the tulsi plant, and someone softly recited verses from the Gita. When fear runs deep, people turn to faith. By dawn, Arvind and two constables reached Balmukund Yadav's house mud walls. Nets drying, a fish hook glinting at the doorway. Balmukund stood there in a white kurta, green towel on his shoulder, pretending calm. "Inspector Sahib, you've come early." He smiled. "Any problem?" Arvind's eyes narrowed. "What we found in your pond last night, was that not a problem?" For a second, Balmukund froze, then forced a laugh. "Sahib, I'm a poor man. People envy me. They spread lies because my fish grow faster. Maybe someone threw those things in my pond to trap me. Innocent men don't dump sacks at midnight," Arvind said quietly. "And innocent men don't threaten their workers." The smile vanished. "Ask whatever you want, but remember, powerful people stand behind me." Arvind's tone stayed even. "The law stands taller than anyone behind you. If you're innocent, there's nothing to fear." That morning, the investigation began. Water and soil samples, fishing net fibers, everything was collected. A message went to Dr. Ananya Sinha, District Forensic Officer. Children were warned away from the pond. Later, Meena Devi brought a small cloth pouch. Inside lay a torn piece of her husband's shirt. "This belonged to Ramesh," she said. "If the same cloth appears among what you found, I'll know he sleeps there beneath the water." Her eyes filled, but her voice did not waver. Arvind accepted it gently. You have my word. Sister Justice will find you. By noon, rumors raced through the lanes. Some swore trucks came from the city at night. Others said a missing contractor's bike was once seen near the pond road. Half truth, half fear, woven into panic. Arvind knew reaching truth required patience, the patience of shielding a flame in a storm. That evening, temple bells rang as villagers prepared for Chhat Puja. Women cleaned the ghats, devotion mixed with dread. The same ponds and rivers that once symbolized life now felt cursed. Pandit Harinarayan stood on the ghat. The essence of religion is justice, he said. If there is no justice, no prayer will bear fruit. Helping the police is our dharma. Night returned. The air grew cold. Watchmen circled the pond, torches glowing faintly. In one corner, Ravi found a folded note at his door. Keep your mouth shut, or your mother's ashes will be all that's left. His heart pounded. He locked the door and sat beside his aging mother. She placed her hand on his head. My son, there's no disease worse than fear. Remember, truth walks with Bhagwan himself. If you stand for truth, my blessings will protect you. Next morning, Ravi went straight to the police station with the note. Arvind examined it in the sunlight. Don't worry. Threats show their fear, not ours. And this handwriting, it's not local. Someone from outside is involved. By afternoon came word from District HQ. The forensic team would reach tomorrow. But another message arrived from Mahendra Pratap Yadav, District Councillor. His aide whispered, Sir, please, don't blow this up. Elections are close. Balmukund is our man. If this spreads, it'll hurt the party. Arvind's jaw tightened. Lives are already hurt. Tell your boss the law neither slows nor bends. That night, Arvind told his constable, no one must know. We'll check the storage shed near the pond tonight. Something's hidden beneath those planks. Ravi nodded. The fear in his eyes had turned to fire. It was the third watch of the night. Dark clouds gathered again. Arvind, Ravi, and two constables crept toward the shed. A section of the fence was loose. Someone used it often. Inside, sacks piled high, labeled as fish feed. Arvind's torch sliced through the dark. Some held maize and chaff, but two stank of death. Knife. He ordered. The sacks were slit open. Inside black plastic wraps, when he peeled one slightly, something glinted, a bone fragment. A metal buckle from a belt. He sealed the evidence. These go to the district lab in the morning. Suddenly, footsteps outside, someone running. Who's there? Ravi shouted, rushing out. Only darkness. And the whisper of wet grass. Arvind whispered, someone's watching us. News will spread. Ravi, stay at the station tonight. By sunrise, rumors flew. The police had found something in Balmukund's shed. Women sprinkled water to settle dust, offered tulsi jal, and prayed for truth. Meena told her neighbor, even if my husband is gone, the guilty must face the light. That will be his peace. By afternoon, Dr. Ananya Sinha and her team arrive. Samples from the pond and the sacks were taken. The old school became a temporary lab. Arvind signed each seal himself. He knew one broken link could break the case. That evening came. New shock. Balmukund Yadav had vanished. Family feigned ignorance. Some said city, others the border. Arvind sent wireless alerts to all checkposts. Still, amidst fear, courage glowed. Pandit Harinarayan gathered the youth. Tonight we'll clean the ghats and vow we'll never side with evil. Whoever speaks truth will have the village behind him. That evening, Arvind addressed the crowd. Exhausted but firm, I ask one promise whatever happens. Speak the truth. This fight isn't just against one man. It's against a mindset that turns life into profit. Meena Devi stepped forward. I'll testify. My husband was last seen near Balmukan's pond. His men lured him with work. Her eyes shone with tears and fire. The women placed hands on her shoulders. In Chandipur, one woman's pain was becoming everyone's courage. As dusk fell, a motorcycle light flickered and vanished. Arvind's instincts sharpened. He sent 2 men after it too late. The station phone rang. A trembling voice whispered, "See ya tonight. At the old ghat, they'll move the sacks. If you reach in time, you'll uncover everything." The call ended. Arvind turned to his men. "Tonight we move like shadows. No noisy, no light. Whoever comes, we catch them. Ravi, stay back. We need you alive." Ravi nodded, though his heart stormed. "If I hide today, who will face my mother tomorrow after midnight?" Silence draped the old ghat. Water lapped softly. Then footsteps. 3 silhouettes, carrying sacks and torches. Quick, one hissed. The boss said, "No delays." They placed the sacks. Arvind raised his hand. 2 constables left. 2 right. He stopped police cows. 1 man slipped in the mud. Another dived into water. The third ran up the steps into Ravi's path. He grabbed him. "Where will you run? Let me go. Or your mother will. Don't you dare take my mother's name," Ravi roared. Arvind pinned him. "Name N. Naresh Yadav." He gasped. "I'm just a labuder. Please, tell the boss to let me go." "Who's your boss?" I don't know." A talisman dangled from his neck engraved Trishul Logistics Pvt. Limited. Arvind whispered, "Trace this company. This could lead to the real owner." The man who dived shouted from the dark, "You've seen enough speak and the whole village will burn." His voice carried arrogance. Not fear, the arrogance of power. Arvind sealed the sacks again, the same black plastic, the same stench, but now fear had company evidence and hope. He turned to Ravi. "I told you to stay away." "I'm sorry, sir, but my heart didn't let me." Arvind sighed, half stern, half proud. Bravery means standing at the right place, at the right time. From now on, follow orders. Morning. Villagers gathered at the ghat. Women scrubbed the steps. Children watched. Meena stood quietly. Arvind said, "We found more evidence. The threads are connecting. Your courage is the village's strength." She folded her hands. "Just ensure, Inspector, that the guilty face their fate in this life." Before he could answer, a constable ran up. "Sir Balmukund spotted at Sharda Cold Storage, near Varanasi." Arvind's eyes lit up like a farmer seeing first rain. "Get the team ready. Tonight, we move quiet and fast. Remember, our fight is against crime, not people. Peace must remain." Evening descended. Villagers sang Chat songs by the river, but beneath the melody ran a current of fear. Will Balmukund be caught? Will the hidden faces finally show? Temple bells rang. Incense drifted on the breeze. Under its fragrance, Arvind opened his diary and wrote, "The road to truth is long, but every step brings us closer." Far away, inside the dark cold storage room, Balmukund Yadav bowed before an unseen figure. "Boss, police are closing in. What should we do?" The shadow replied coldly, "Do what we always do. Erase the evidence and silence whoever dares to speak." Outside, thunder rumbled once more across the plains. A new storm was coming, not from the skies, But from the depths of human greed, the road from Chandipur to Varanasi was slick with monsoon mud that night. Lightning flashed across the plains, and the police jeep cut through the darkness, headlights flickering, wipers struggling against the rain. Inside the jeep sat Inspector Arvind Chauhan, his mind steady as steel. He knew this night would not end without a result. Beside him wäre Ravi Pratap, Tutruste Constables, and Dr. Ananya Sinha, the forensic officer, whose calm intellect had become the backbone of the case. "Sir," Ravi whispered, "what if Balmukund isn't there?" Arvind replied without turning, "Then we'll find whoever hides him." Truth leaves footprints, even on wet ground. The jeep slowed as they reached the outskirts of Varanasi. In the faint glow of street lamps stood an abandoned building, its board half broken. Letters, barely visible. Shada Cold Storage PVT. Limited. The main gate was locked from outside, but a faint yellow light seeped through cracks in the wall. Arvind signaled. Lanterns off. They moved silently, circling the boundary wall. One section of plaster was crumbling, perfect for entry. The constables removed a few bricks, and one by one, the team slipped inside. The air was cold, unnaturally cold. Inside, massive ice blocks shimmered under dim lights. Between them, scattered sacks lay half covered with frost. Some machines still hummed faintly. "This place isn't abandoned." Dr. Ananya whispered. Arvind lifted a sack. The label read "Fish Feed, Trishul Logistics." He slid the top open. Inside was the same black plastic, the same suffocating smell of decay. Under the beam of his torch, they found not just bones but half-burnt identity cards, torn clothes, belt fragments, and rusted tools. Dr. Ananya inhaled sharply. "This isn't random murder. This is an organized disposal system, someone erasing identities." Before Arvind could respond, faint voices came from above quick. "Move the goods. The boss wants everything cleared before dawn." Arvind motioned upward. They crept toward the staircase. At the top, through a half-open door, 5 men were loading sacks onto a truck. Standing beside them, Balmukund Yadav, pale and shaking, his hands trembling as he gave orders. Arvind stepped forward, his voice cutting through the cold. Balmukund police panic erupted. 2 men bolted toward the exit. One pulled a pistol, but a constable tackled him before he could fire. Metal clashed against concrete. Echoes filled the freezing hall. Balmukund froze. Then, breaking down, he screamed, "You don't understand, I'm not alone. They made me do it." "Who made you?" Arvind demanded. Balmukund laughed nervously, a hollow, desperate sound. "You'll die if you hear the name. Mahendra Pratap Yadav." He said, "Don't fear corpses. They bring profit. I'm just a pawn." The room fell silent. Even the machines seemed to pause. Ravi felt his knees weaken. Mahendra Pratap, the politician whose men had threatened Arvind days earlier. Now the mask had cracked. Before they could move Balmukund, the truck's engine roared. Someone was trying to escape. Outside, backup sirens wailed. The district police had arrived. Within minutes, the truck was surrounded. Its driver and laborers arrested. Arvind looked straight at Balmukund. "Your game is over. Now, the court will hear your truth." But Balmukund sneered defiantly. "You think you've won? Even the courts dance to their tune." He spat defiantly as officers dragged him away. By sunrise, word had already spread across every field and courtyard. The Sharda cold storage was sealed. Seized items were labeled, documented, and loaded into evidence trucks. Every piece, every bone, every scrap carried a story waiting to be told in court. Back in Chandipur, the news spread like wildfire. Pandit Harinarayan gathered the villagers at the chapel. He spoke with a calm but heavy voice. When a man strays from righteousness, greed blinds him. But truth, my brothers, truth cuts through darkness. Women wept in relief. Children clung to their fathers. Yet deep inside, fear lingered because Mahendra Pratap Yadav still walked free. That evening, Meena Devi met Arvind near the temporary camp. Inspector Sahib, she asked softly, if powerful people are behind this, will we ever see justice? Arvind looked toward the fading sun. There may be delay. Meena ji, but darkness can never last forever. As long as we breathe, we fight. Just then, a constable rushed in with urgent news. Sir Mahendra Pratap is holding a rally in Chandipur next week, an election meeting. Arvind's eyes hardened. Then that's where the truth will speak. On the same stage, where lies wear the mask of power. That night, the villagers could feel the weight of something shifting, a storm no longer of rain, but of revelation. The story of Chandipur was no longer confined to one pond. It had begun to challenge the thrones of power itself. In Chandipur, the festival season had arrived. Yet, joy felt distant. The air was thick with suspicion, the kind that clings to your skin even under sunlight. Villagers decorated their homes for Chat Puja. But every song, every diya flickering by the pond carried a quiet question. Would justice ever truly arrive? Posters of Mahendra Pratap Yadav covered every wall. His smiling face, folded palms, and slogans of Vikas aur Nyay, development and justice. The same justice he had buried under the weight of his own crimes. Inspector Arvind Chavan had not slept for days. Files, witness statements, sealed evidence boxes, his mind replayed them all like a reel. He knew what Mahendra would do. He would stand before the people, wrap lies in promises, and turn their fear into loyalty. But this time, Arvind decided truth itself would walk onto that stage. The morning of the rally was blazing with color and noise. Drums echoed, flags waved, and loudspeakers screamed Mahendra's name. Hundreds gathered, some out of hope, some out of fear, some just to see the drama unfold. The stage stood tall at the village square, wrapped in red and gold cloth. Security guards surrounded it, eyes scanning the restless crowd. At noon, Mahendra's convoy arrived, white SUV, flashing lights, men in crisp white kurtas. Mahendra climbed the steps to the stage, calm, confident, his smile practiced. He raised his hands and spoke into the microphone, his voice dripping with authority. My dear brothers and sisters, he began, I have always served this land, built your roads, your ponds, your schools, and today, some jealous men tried to destroy my image with false accusations. Cheers erupted from a section of his followers, but many stood still, silent, eyes unmoving. Behind the crowd, Inspector Arvind watched from the control tent. He turned to Ravi and said, when lies speak loud, truth must thunder. Ravi nodded, his heart pounding. Mahendra continued, don't believe rumors. Those so-called investigators want fame, not justice. I am your servant, your sevak. Suddenly, a voice cut through the air. A young man stepped forward, Ravi Pratap. His voice trembled at first, then rose with strength. You call yourself a servant, he shouted. Then tell us, why did your trucks carry sacks full of bones? Why did you feed fish with the flesh of our brothers? The crowd gasped. All eyes turned toward Ravi. Mahendra's face went pale, then tightened with anger. Who is this boy? He barked. Another puppet sent by the police. Ravi stood his ground. I worked for Balmukund Yadav. I saw those sacks, the same ones your men brought from the city. You can kill people, seer, but not their truth. Before Mahendra could respond, Another voice rose from the crowd firm, clear and heavy with grief. Meena Devi stepped forward, holding her husband's photograph in trembling hands. "My husband disappeared 2 months ago," she said, her tone breaking yet fierce. "I found his torn shirt from the same pond your men used as a graveyard. You call yourself a leader. You are a butcher in white clothes." The crowd stirred. Whispers turned into shouts. "Speak the truth. Tell us what you did." Justice for Chandipur Mahendra tried to smile, but the mask was slipping. He gestured to his men. "Stop them. This is all a lie." At that very moment, the large LED screen behind the stage flickered to life. Inspector Arvind stepped onto the platform, calm yet commanding. "Enough of lies. Mahendra," he said into the mic, "let your people see the truth for themselves." On screen, images began to appear, photographs from the cold storage raid, videos of black plastic sacks, forensic reports, and lab seals with Mahendra's transport company name. The murmurs in the crowd turned into a roar. Then, the most shocking footage appeared, the truck driver's recorded confession. His voice echoed through the speakers. "Yes, I carried the sacks. They told me they were fish feed, but I saw bones inside." The orders came from Mahendra Pratap's office. The air exploded. Gasps, shouts, cries of "arrest him." Mahendra's guards panicked, trying to pull him off stage, but the police closed in. Mahendra raised his hand desperately, shouting into the mic, "This is fake. This is all doctored. I am innocent." But the people were no longer listening. The same villagers who once bowed to him now surged forward, their chants filling the square. "Truth has spoken. Chandipur wants justice." Pandit Hari Narayan climbed the steps, his frail voice rising above the chaos. "My children," he said, "if we answer violence with violence, truth itself will die. Let the law, not anger, be our weapon." Silence fell again. Arvind nodded at his team. The officers surrounded Mahendra and placed him under arrest. As the police vehicles drove away, Chandipur fell silent for a moment, a silence heavy with both relief and disbelief. Then applause broke out, hesitant at first, then stronger, rising like the first light after a storm. Arvind's voice echoed across the field. "This victory isn't mine. It belongs to every villager who chose courage over fear. Remember, when the people stand with truth, no throne can stand against them." But deep down, Arvind knew this battle was only half won. Shadows still lingered beyond the spotlight. The villagers clapped, some crying, some praying. The sound of drums returned, not for a festival, but for freedom. That night, as the sun set over Chandipur, the wind carried a new kind of peace, the peace that comes when lies fall and truth finally breathes in open air. The night after Mahendra Pratap's dramatic arrest, the rains returned to Chandipur. Water dripped from tiled rooftops, and lightning flickered over the silent pond. Once a symbol of life, now a mirror of buried crimes. Inspector Arvind Chauhan sat under the dim glow of a lantern, his diary open, pages wet with humidity. He knew one victory didn't mean the end. It was only the first crack in a much bigger wall. By dawn, news spread that Mahendra's men had started disappearing from the village. Some went missing. Some were suddenly transferred to city jobs, and one Naresh Yadav, the thin man caught near the pond, was found hanging inside the district jail. The report said suicide, but Arvind knew better. Dr. Nalini's voice echoed in his memory. The marks around his neck are double-layered, not self-inflicted. Someone silenced him. That night, While going through seized evidence, Arvind noticed something strange. The small talisman that had hung from Naresh's neck. Inside it, a thin metal plate was engraved with a company logo, Shakti Logistics. The name was unfamiliar, but the logo, a red sun over a truck wheel, sparked a memory. He had seen it before, faintly printed on the sacks pulled from the pond. He muttered to himself. Naresh Yadav, the worker caught near the pond, had worn that same talisman. Perhaps he was never just a laborer, but a courier between Chandipur and Delhi. Arvind sent a telegram to the district headquarters. Within hours, a file arrived, Shakti Logistics PVT, Limited, based in Delhi. Owner Vikramaditya Kapoor, a name polished with reputation, philanthropist, businessman, the man who sponsored election funds across northern India. Later that evening, an anonymous message arrived at the police camp, a single slip of paper that read, "Stop digging before you bury yourself." Arvind stared at the note, his jaw tightening. It was clear the pressure was not just local anymore. He picked up his pen and wrote in his diary, "They want silence. But silence is the language of fear. Tomorrow, we move beyond Chandipur to the place where truth is sold, bought, and buried under glittering towers." When dawn came, he gathered his small team, Dr. Nalini and Ravi Pratap. The road to Delhi would be long, uncertain, and dangerous. But as the jeep rolled out of the village, the rising sun reflected on the pond, now calm again, as if hiding its guilt beneath still waters. Ravi looked back one last time and whispered, "This is where it began, and this is where it must end." Arvind didn't reply. He only turned a page in his diary and wrote, "Slowly, with determination, tomorrow, we dive into Delhi's darkness, where even truth has a price." The jeep disappeared down the dusty road, leaving behind a village that had finally found its voice and a silence that now waited for justice. Delhi, the capital that never sleeps, where the hum of engines mixes with whispers of power. To the people of Chandipur, it was another world: glass towers, spotless cars, and promises built on the bones of forgotten villages. For Inspector Arvind Chauhan, it was enemy ground. As the jeep crossed the Yamuna Bridge, Ravi Pratap gazed at the skyline piercing the gray dawn. He whispered, "It looks so clean, Sahab, as if dirt itself is afraid here." Arvind answered quietly, "In Delhi, dirt doesn't vanish, Ravi. It just wears perfume." They drove past billboards, flashing faces of politicians, corporate logos, and luxury homes. Each hoarding mocked the quiet honesty of Chandipur. In the back seat, Dr. Nalini clutched the sealed forensic files, their only shield against the empire they were about to challenge. By noon, they reached Kanad Place, where Shakti Logistics' glass-walled headquarters rose like a monument to success. A guard waved them through, unaware that the storm entering those gates would shake his master's fortune. Inside, marble floors gleamed. Employees moved with silent precision, their eyes fixed on screens and fear. At reception, Arvind introduced himself. "Inspector Arvind Chauhan, Uttar Pradesh Police. We'd like to meet Mr. Vikramaditya Kapoor." Moments later, a tall man in a gray suit appeared, polished, confident, smiling. "Welcome, Inspector. Delhi can be harsh on visitors," he said smoothly. Kapoor's office overlooked the city floor-to-ceiling glass, gold-rimmed furniture, and behind his desk a painting of the Himalayas. On the wall, a framed quote read, "We deliver trust." Arvind noticed the irony and almost smiled. He began evenly. "We are investigating certain shipments linked to your company." He slid the photograph of the talisman across the desk. Kapoor glanced once, leaning back without concern. Inspector, my company moves everything from grains to God's idols. If someone misused my brand, that's regrettable, not criminal. Ravi's fists clenched. Dr. Nalini opened her file and laid out photos from the pond, the red-stained cloth, the metal fragments. Her voice was calm, but cutting forensics doesn't take sides. Mr. Kapoor, it only speaks when evidence does, and the evidence points to you. Kapoor's smile thinned. Forensics is a tricky science. Doctor, sometimes it finds what it wants to find. Arvind met his gaze. Truth is not a matter of convenience. Mr. Kapoor, it's a matter of time. For a heartbeat, the businessman's mask slipped, then returned. As the team turned to leave, Kapoor's assistant murmured, "Sir, these people, they don't know who they're dealing with." Kapoor replied, staring at the skyline. "Oh, they'll learn soon enough." That evening, a call came from Lucknow Polite, but Heavy slowed down the case. "Inspector, Delhi is not your village." Arvind listened in silence, then hung up. He understood the message. The pressure had climbed higher than ever before. That night, in a modest guest house near Carroll Bag, the city's noise never stopped. Sirens, horns, laughter, and a violin from a far-off radio. Arvind sat by the window, watching neon lights blink over rain-wet streets. Thinking of Chandipur's lanterns, he wrote in his diary, "This city shines too bright to see its own darkness. Every mosque here smiles. Every smile hides a deal." Tomorrow, we begin to pull those masks off one by one. Next, we follow the wheels, the trucks that carry death in daylight, across town. In his mansion of mirrors and marble, Vikramaditya Kapoor poured himself a drink and watched the rain trace silver veins down the glass. He murmured, almost to himself, "Welcome to Delhi, Inspector. Let's see how long your truth survives here." The battle between light and shadow had now entered the capital, and neither side intended to lose. The next morning, Delhi woke beneath a heavy fog. For Inspector Arvind Chauhan, sleep had become a stranger. The trail that began in Chandipur's muddy pond was now winding through the highways of power, and somewhere behind the steel doors of a moving truck, the truth was still breathing. By afternoon, Arvind met his old friend Inspector Arun Malhotra at a roadside tea stall near Daula Kwan. Arun had served with him in Lucknow years ago, a man who still believed in honesty, though Delhi had nearly beaten it out of him. He leaned closer, voice low. "You're chasing ghosts." "Arvind, Kapoor isn't just a businessman. His trucks carry contracts for ministers, builders, even the army. You touch him, you'll burn." Arvind stirred his tea slowly, watching the rain blur the traffic. "Then I'll burn," he said quietly, "but not before I see what's inside those trucks." Arvind knew his friend was right, but in Chandipur, he had seen what silence costs, and he could never pay that price again. That evening, through traffic logs and GPS records, they traced a Shakti logistics convoy heading out of Delhi, 3 trucks registered as fertilizer shipments, bound for Haryana's industrial belt, but fertilizer never carried fear. They followed in an unmarked jeep. Rain began to fall again, soft at first, then harder, washing Delhi's dust into the gutters. The red taillights ahead flickered through the haze like eyes in the mist. Ravi Pratap, gripping the dashboard, whispered, "Sahab, what if they see us?" Arvind replied, "Then they'll show us what they're hiding." The trucks finally turned off the main highway into a walled compound, rusted gates, flickering floodlights, and a weathered sign, "Private property, no entry." The air smelled of diesel, iron, and something older. Arvind switched off the headlights. The team stepped out Arvind, Ravi, Arun, and Dr. Nalini with her camera. Rain dripped from the tin roofs as they crept along the edge of the yard. Inside the largest shed, muffled voices worked in rhythm, men unloading heavy sacks. When one sack tore open, a pale object rolled onto the floor. It was not grain. It was a human bone, bleached and brittle. Ravi froze. Nalini lifted her camera click, and then light exploded. Spotlights, shouts. Who's there? Bullets split the air. Arvind shouted. Down, everyone down. Metal screamed as shots ricocheted off the trucks. Rain hit the ground in silver bursts, mixing with smoke and gunpowder. Arun shouted through the storm. Police, drop your weapons. But his words drowned under gunfire. A bullet grazed Arvind's arm. He gritted his teeth. Fired back. 1, 2, 3 shots. Oman fell. Another dropped his torch. Flames licked up the crates, turning shadows into ghosts. From the darkness, a heavy-set man appeared, half his face hidden. Tell your inspector. He snarled. Truth doesn't belong here. He held a Molotov bottle. It shattered against a truck's tank, and the logo of Shakti Logistics burst into fire, its red sun burning in the rain. The attackers fled into the fields. One fell, bleeding in the mud. Arvind grabbed him by the collar. Name. Who sent you? The man coughed blood. Kapoor said. No one leaves evidence, and then he went still. Minutes later, police reinforcements and fire trucks arrived, but the evidence had already spoken. Charred crates, blackened bones, the company emblem scorched into metal. Dr. Nalini sealed the samples, her hands trembling. We have what we need, she whispered. Arvind pressed a bandage to his arm, staring at the burning wreck. Yes, but this is just the first blow. By morning, the warehouse was only smoke and silence, but truth had finally left a mark. As the sun broke through the haze, police lights painted the wet road red and blue. Ravi looked at Arvind. Sahab, if this is the first blow, what will the last one look like? Arvind didn't answer. He watched the smoke curling into the dawn and said quietly, when power hides behind money, truth must walk through fire. That night, in his diary, he wrote today. The shadows fired first. Tomorrow, the law will answer. The sun rose over Delhi, cutting through a haze of smoke and exhaust. By dawn, the story from Haryana had already exploded. But for Arvind Chauhan, this wasn't just a headline. It was Chandipur's ghosts calling again. Local TV channels flashed the footage. Illegal warehouse linked to Shakti Logistics burns in mysterious fire. Arvind stood inside Delhi police headquarters, his arm bandaged, eyes heavy with sleepless resolve. Across the city, microphones and cameras buzzed like wasps. And in the middle of it all, a familiar name began echoing across every screen: Vikramaditya Kapoor. The media called him a visionary businessman, a philanthropist, a savior of industry. His smile was flawless, his voice calm. By noon, he was already sitting in a primetime studio, facing the nation. These allegations are political. My company transports food, medicine, relief goods. We serve the nation, not destroy it. If someone misuses our name, we'll cooperate with the law. The anchor nodded, as if hypnotized. Behind them, the burning trucks flickered on the studio screens, but the lights made Kapoor glow like a saint. For the viewers, confusion replaced outrage. Was he a criminal or a victim of conspiracy? Meanwhile, Arvind's phone wouldn't stop ringing. Journalists, ministers, Senior officers, everyone wanted him to stay quiet until the dust settled. His superior called. Voice sharp and distant, Inspector Chauhan. The Home Department doesn't want unnecessary attention. File a preliminary report and step back. Arvind stared at the receiver for a long time, then hung up. Down the corridor, Ravi Pratap waited anxiously, clutching a file. Sahab, people are saying the fire destroyed everything. Arvind opened the folder photos. Samples. Sealed before the blaze. Not everything, he said quietly. That evening, the pressure tightened. News vans crowded outside the police HQ. Reporters shouted, "Inspector, are you targeting a respected businessman? Are you being used by Kapoor's rivals?" Arvind walked past them in silence, his boots echoing down the hall. In his mind, the cries from Chandipur still echoed truth. Drowned once in muddy water, demanding to be heard again. At night, Dr. Nalini and Arvind met in a dimly lit office. On the desk lay the burned metal plate from Haryana, the company's emblem, half melted, but still readable. Shakti Logistics PVT. Limited, Nalini said softly. "We have partial DNA from the bones. It matches 2 of the missing villagers." Arvind exhaled slowly, enough to reopen the case. And to corner Kapoor, before they could move, a message flashed on his phone. A journalist friend warned, "Be careful. Kapoor's buying airtime in silence." And it was true. Next morning, newspaper headlines turned, "Inspector overreaches no proof against industrialist. Political vendetta disguised as justice." On Delhi's streets, chai stalls buzzed with debate. Some believed Kapoor's tears. Others whispered that no rich man cries for truth. Half the channels called Arvind a patriot. The rest called him an enemy of progress. By evening, Kapoor held a lavish press conference at a 5-star hotel, Holden Chandeliers. Rows of cameras. He appeared draped in white, marigold garlands around his neck. "I have faith in our judiciary," he declared. "I've always worked for the poor-built hospitals, given jobs. But some people want to break this harmony with fake stories." Applause thundered. Some reporters clapped out of loyalty, others out of fear, outside. A lone protester shouted, "If you're innocent," face the court. Guards dragged him away. That night, Arvind and Ravi watched the coverage on an old TV in the police guest house. Ravi muttered, "He's turning lies into gold." Arvind replied, "Then we'll make truth shine brighter." A knock at the door. Meena Devi stood there, travel-worn, eyes fierce. "Sahab, you won't stay silent. You saved my husband's truth once. Now I'll help you save everyone's." Arvind nodded. He handed her a small recorder. "Then speak for them." "Meena, speak so loud even Delhi hears." In the following days, they gathered what power couldn't silence voices. Warehouse workers, truck drivers, families of the missing, every testimony recorded, hidden, backed up in secret. But power doesn't stay quiet for long. Within a week, 2 witnesses vanished. One driver's body was found in a canal near Gurgaon. The other simply disappeared. The storm was beyond courtrooms. Now Delhi was burning in headlines, whispers, and fear. Social media raged. Hashtags trended and died overnight. Some called Arvind a hero. Others, a madman challenging the untouchable. That night, in his diary, he wrote, "Truth is not a flame that dies in wind. It spreads in silence, in whispers, in those who still dare to believe." Next morning, an anonymous envelope arrived at the station. Inside, a photograph taken years ago, Kapoor shaking hands with Mahendra Pratap Yadav, and behind them, the faint, board of Trishul Logistics, Arvind studied it for a long time, then murmured, "The fire has reached the palace. Now, let's see who runs first." Outside, thunder rolled again over Delhi's skyline, echoing between towers of glass and power. The capital was on fire, and for the first time, truth had stepped onto the battlefield. Delhi's nights had grown restless. Sirens cut through the fog. News tickers blinked without pause, and the air itself seemed charged with secrets. Inside a small government safe house on the outskirts, Inspector Arvind Chauhan sat at a wooden table littered with files, cassettes, and photographs. Each piece was a voice, each voice a fragment of truth. Ravi Pratap was beside him, tense but determined. Doctor, Nalini had just arrived, carrying a sealed evidence bag. Inside lay a pen drive marked in red, the recording that could destroy everything Vikramaditya Kapoor had built. Arvind inserted it into the laptop. The screen flickered. A hidden camera's footage appeared. A truck driver, face half lit, voice trembling. "Sahab, I drove the trucks. Inside those sacks were human bones, not cement." Orders came from Kapoor's office, Shakti Logistics. Barakamba Road. "If I speak, they'll kill me." His eyes darted off screen, then darkness. Ravi whispered, "He's the one who disappeared, isn't he?" Arvind nodded. "Yes, but his truth didn't." Dr. Nalini looked up. This, combined with the DNA matches and the photo of Kapoor with Mahendra Pratap, is enough to move the court. Arvind closed the laptop slowly. Enough to move the world if it survives long enough. Outside, the night was unnaturally quiet. A shadow moved near the gate. Then another. A gunshot shattered the silence. Bullets hit the walls. Glass exploded. Arvind shouted, "Down! Protect the evidence." Ravi grabbed the hard drive, diving behind a cabinet. Dr. Nalini hid under the table, clutching her phone. Outside, armed men in black surrounded the building. Kapoor's private guards, sent not to threaten, but to erase. Arvind rolled to the window, fired back controlled bursts, each shot echoing like thunder across the safe house. Then headlights appeared. Delhi police backup. The attackers fled into the dark, vanishing as quickly as they came. When silence returned, only smoke and broken glass remained. Nalini's hands shook as she held up the bag. "It's safe. The data's safe." Arvind's jaw tightened. "Then tomorrow, it goes public." The next morning, the footage was leaked online. The whistle of truth finally pierced Delhi's noise. It began on a small independent channel, then spread to every screen, every phone, every tea stall. The driver's confession, the bones, the Shakti logo, the handshake between Kapoor and Mahendra Pratap, all of it. Now unfiltered, hashtags flooded social media. "Justice for Chandapur," "Kapoor exposed," "Truth will rise" crowds gathered outside Kapoor's headquarters. Students, workers, ville all demanding answers. For the first time, fear changed direction across India. Opinions split like monsoon clouds. Some believed the news, others believed the man who owned it, and still, half the channels called Arvind a patriot. The rest called him an enemy of progress. But Kapoor wasn't finished. He called a press meet that evening, his smile tighter, his tone sharper. "This so-called video is fake. Deepfake technology is everywhere today. I have already filed a defamation case against these conspirators." A journalist shouted from the crowd, "Sir, will you cooperate with the CBI investigation?" Kapoor's eyes flickered. Then he smiled again. "Too calm. Truth will win, mine or theirs." Outside, That smile turned to storm. His men began tracking witnesses. 2 went missing before sunset. Another was found unconscious near a construction site. Arvind, Ravi, and Nalini moved the remaining witnesses to a new safe house. Meena Devi stayed close. Air, courage unbroken. They can silence voices. Sahab, she said, but not faith. Even if it takes my life, I'll stand with the truth. That night, Arvind met a senior officer at the India Gate lawns. The city glowed like fire behind them. The officer whispered, "You've shaken too many pillars. Kapoor's friends reach parliament. If you take this to court, you'll stand alone." Arvind looked toward the monument's eternal flame. "Then I'll stand there." He turned, coat billowing in the night wind, determined to walk into court with or without protection. Meanwhile, in a penthouse across Delhi, Vikramaditya Kapoor watched the same footage on a giant screen. He smiled faintly and said to his aide, "If they want a war of truth, we'll give them silence." The aide asked, "Sir, destroy the backups and find the inspector's family. Ours la terre." A call woke Arvind. It was Ravi breathing hard. "Sahab, someone broke into Meena Devi's house in Chandipur. They're hunting the villagers now." Arvind froze. Then, in a calm voice that carried more steel than fear, he said, "Not this time. I'm going to end this in court, once and for all." As dawn broke over Delhi, the capital felt the tremor of truth spreading through its veins. The whistle had been blown, but the storm had only begun. Delhi High Court. A cold winter morning. The sky hung low, wrapped in haze. The steps of justice echoed with the weight of expectation. Crowds lined the outer gates. Journalists, villagers from Chandipur, and citizens who had followed every twist of the Chandipur mass graves case. Camera flashes lit the fog like lightning. Inside, Inspector Arvind Chauhan adjusted his uniform, its fabric creased from sleepless nights. Beside him stood Dr. Nalini Mehta, calm but resolute, and Meena Devi, her face marked by loss, yet glowing with quiet strength. Behind them, Ravi Pratap, the young man who had once been too afraid to speak. Now he was ready to do so before the nation. Across the courtroom, Vikramaditya Kapoor sat in the dark, immaculate white kurta, gold watch glinting, his lawyer whispering strategy into his ear. But his eyes never left Arvind. It was not fear, but defiance. The judge entered. Silence fell. Court in session. The prosecution began with the evidence chain. The forensic reports, DNA matches from Chandipur's pond, and the sealed footage showing Shakti Logistics trucks carrying human remains. Dr. Nalini stepped forward to testify. Her voice was clear, precise, and unwavering. "Your Honor, the biological samples recovered from Chandipur match with the missing villagers. The trucks operated under Shakti Logistics, owned by Mr. Kapoor." The defense lawyer rose. "Objection. Your Honor, this entire case is built on circumstantial assumptions. My client runs hundreds of trucks across India. He cannot control what others load into them." The judge noted calmly. "Overruled for now. Proceed." Next, Arvind was called to the stand. He stood tall, his voice carrying the quiet authority of truth. "Your Honor, this case began with one missing man in a small village. It led us here to the capital, where greed and power turned human life into trade." He placed a file on the table. "This contains Kapoor's signed logistics orders linking shipments from Chandipur to his Delhi facility. This is not chance. It's murder for profit." The courtroom buzzed. Kapoor's lawyer smirked. "Inspector, do you have proof that my client personally ordered any of this?" Arvind's answer was simple. "Yes." His voice, he clicked a remote. The speakers crackled. and Kapoor's recorded words filled the courtroom. If the villagers speak, remove them. No evidence, no bodies, only fish. A gasp rippled through the room. Kapoor's composure shattered. His lawyer leapt up, shouting, "Fabrication, deepfake." But the judge's hand rose. "Sit down." The recording continued. The sound of papers rustling, a faint laugh, and then Kapoor's voice again, colder. "Arvind Chawan thinks he's a hero. Heroes die early." Dead silence. Only the ticking clock dared to move. Meena Devi stood up from the gallery. Her voice trembled, yet rang like a bell. "Your Honor, my husband was one of those villagers. I don't need science to tell me this man is guilty. My soul already knows." The judge looked at her for a long moment. "Mrs. Devi, your courage honors this court." The defense tried to recover. "This is emotional manipulation, not evidence." But the tide had turned. The prosecution rested its case with the final exhibit, a photograph showing Kapoor shaking hands with the late politician Mahendra Pratap. Backed by the Shakti Logistics logo, the alliance of power and profit, caught forever in one frame. After hours of cross-examination, after every denial, every deflection the courtroom reached, that fragile stillness, when even the walls seemed to wait for truth, the judge adjusted his glasses. His words were heavy, deliberate. "This court finds the accused, Vikramaditya Kapoor, guilty of organized murder, destruction of evidence, and crimes against humanity. He is hereby sentenced to life imprisonment." Gasp, tears, silence, and then applause. A thunder of hands, raw with relief. Meena wept quietly. Ravi clutched Arvind's arm, whispering, "We did it. Sahab, we really did it." Arvind looked up at the skylight, where a single beam of winter sun broke through the dust. "No, Ravi," he said softly. "Truth did it." Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed like bees, but Arvind simply walked past them. He wasn't chasing fame, only peace. Meena placed a small marigold garland at the gate, whispering a prayer for the souls who had vanished in the waters of Chandipur. The wind carried the temple bells from a distance, their sound merging with the hum of Delhi traffic, a strange harmony between chaos and calm. "Doctor," Nalini looked at Arvind. "Will it really end here?" He shook his head. "Evil never ends. It only hides waiting for the next storm. But so does truth." As the camera of destiny pulled back, Delhi shimmered under the fading sun, a city of shadows. But for once, the light had won. "Justice may walk slow." Arvind's voice echoed in narration, but it never walks alone. 1 year has passed. Morning sunlight spills softly over the green fields of Chandipur. The same village that once lived in fear now hums again with life. Children chase kites across the meadows, and the sound of temple bells echoes through the air, as if the land itself is breathing again. By the pond once called the Lake of Death, a small stone memorial stands now, engraved with the names of those who never returned. Fresh marigolds rest at its base. Women bow their heads in silence, their reflections trembling on the water's surface. Meena Devi still lives in a modest mud house at the edge of the village. Every morning, she lights a diya by her husband's photograph and whispers the same prayer, not for revenge, but for peace. He did not die in vain. She says, "Because of him, our children now grow without fear." Across the square, Ravi Pratap teaches young boys how to read and write. Once he carried guilt, now he carries purpose. On the classroom wall, in chalk, he has written, "Courage is the only prayer truth understands." From the distant city of Delhi, news drifts down to Chandipur that Vikramaditya Kapoor's appeal has been rejected. His empire lies in ruins. But for Arvind, justice was never about a man. It was about a promise. He stands once again at the pond's edge. The water calm, clear, almost forgiving. Nalini joins him, her sari fluttering in the mild wind. Strange, she says softly. This place once smelled of death. Now it smells of rain. Arvind smiles faintly. That's the thing about truth. Nalini, it cleanses everything. It touches even pain. A group of village children run past, their laughter scattering ripples across the pond. The same pond that once hid secrets now reflects the open sky, endless and bright. The camera pulls back. Chandipur glows in the amber light of dusk fields, golden, homes alive, and prayers floating in the wind. Arvind's voice returns. Steady and reflective. We often think justice is a battle fought in courts, but sometimes it's the quiet in a mother's heart, the courage in a boy's eyes, or the peace that returns to a village once haunted by fear. He turns to leave. Behind him, the temple bells ring for the evening arti, and as the sky deepens into twilight, the narrator's voice fades in. The shadows will always come. But as long as one diya burns in Chandipur, the light will never die.